All right. So welcome back to another edition of testimonial videos for Secrets of Storytelling Mastermind. So today I have my lovely, amazing client and friend, Ellena. Hi, Ellena.
Hello.
Yay. I'm so excited to get to talk to you. All right. So last spring, you came to the Write a Chapter challenge that I did, the 5-day Write a Chapter challenge.
Yes.
So what was it about the challenge that kind of like drew you in or kind of interested? You were kind of like, ooh, what is this? Like, tell us about how you came into the challenge and what the challenge was like for you.
Well, I was a part of your Facebook group, right? Like the Writing Brave Facebook group. And I had been trying to make it on Monday mornings and just wasn't happening. And so when this came up, I knew that I needed it.
Mm.
And so I just went ahead and joined it. I'm like, this is what I need, 5 days, even though it took me like 5 weeks.
Which is fine.
But I felt like every single day that I watched the video, like the content, it was so life-giving, and it felt like it did make a difference in my writing right away.
Yay. Yes, I love that so much.
Like,
great. That's always my hope with everything that I create, is that like it can make smaller, big shifts in people's writing right away. So it's so gratifying to hear. So then what was it that kind of drew you to Secrets of Storytelling Mastermind? Like, what about it was like, oh, like that's for me?
Well, I felt like because of the challenge itself, right? The 5-day challenge was so incredibly helpful. I remember telling my husband, if I ever hire a writing coach, it's going to be Brooke. Like, that's who it's going to be, because she's so intuitive and she teaches from this space that really draws me out and helps me to write better. And I felt like right away I was writing better. So I think that's what, if I could do that in that short challenge, then I felt like if I wanted to go further, then I needed something more.
Yeah. Yeah. I love you so much. And I love that so much. And thank you so much for saying this piece about like the intuitive piece, because there are a lot of people that teach like the mechanics of writing, right? Like you can go on YouTube and there's podcasts and there's books and there's classes and workshops, right? There's like all the things. And I think the one thing that I've been trying to claim more and more is like that intuitive piece of both, like use it, like teaching people to use their own intuition in their writing, and then also kind of leveraging my intuition, like you were saying, to like draw people's magic like out of them. So yay, I'm so glad that
and it really felt like that. I felt like there was this magic that was coming, and forever when I sat down to write this book, I mean, I've had thousands and thousands of words, right? I've already had multiple times that I started, and I had no idea what it was supposed to be. And one of the things that you said was like, when we sit down to write, a lot of times we try to write from our brain, like from our mind, from like our thinking space, but really that it needs to come from like source and from or spirit, and what I feel like is interchangeable with your intuition. And so that reminded me of like the times when my writing was good, that's where I was, but I never thought to approach a book that way. I thought that I needed to write what I knew, not what was wanting to come out. And so I feel like that made the biggest difference right away.
Yes. Yes, I love this so much. And part of this it's sort of an evolution of my ideas on this quote from the writer Robert Olin Butler. And he says, like, stop saying you have an idea for a story. And he says, art doesn't come from ideas. It comes from the place where you dream. Right. And so like, I've kind of taken that and like evolved it into my own work, but yeah, it's so important, right? That like so much of the writing that's out there now, it's just like all like from people's heads. And it's just like, oh, it's okay. But like, you can kind of, you can always tell, right? Like when someone has kind of gone into themselves and is writing from source, like you can feel it, right? Like you feel it in your body. Right. So yeah, it's so important. So yes, I love that you're seeing those shifts right in your writing, kind of from writing from that place. So tell us a little about your book, the book that you wanted to write when you came in, and then also about like what is coming out now that you're in the space.
Okay, sure. Hey, babe, give me a few minutes.
He wanted my Lego.
Okay.
Lego.
I'm sorry about that.
Legos.
Okay. I'm sorry about that. Don't hit him with the Legos. I'm so sorry that she did that. We could talk about it later, but I'm in a meeting, okay? And I will be there. Yes, you guys can go watch something now. Close the door. Now you will have uninterruption. Okay. Say it again. The question again.
So, and this, I just want to say too, that like a lot of the people in Secrets of Storytelling Mastermind are moms. And it's like, part of it is, how do you make time for writing and for like having a writing life or a creative life when you also have little people? And it's like, this is how we do it. It's like you attend to that and then you snap back in. So in any case, so tell us about the book that you came in wanting to write, and then also about like what's been coming through that was surprising to you.
Right. So I wanted to write a book on expectations, like letting go of expectations and letting go of the expectations of others, of ourselves, what life is supposed to look like, you know, the way people are supposed to show up in your life and whatnot. And so I wrote a bit about that, but what ended up coming out was more memoir. And it was very different, very, very different than what I was expecting. But when I sat with the book and when I sat with my intuition, and I sat with the spirit, this is what wanted to come out. And so in the process, it's been incredibly like terrifying and healing at the same time. But also what birthed from that, because the writing can be a little bit more draining, even though you're writing from this place of like you're writing intuitively, it's still things come up that are unexpected. So giving space for that and honoring that, but also like leaning into the energy that's going to kind of like help balance that. And so for me, it was writing just randomly, didn't realize this was going to happen, but I ended up starting a children's novel, which is so crazy, because when I started the class, I remember thinking to myself, like, wow, fiction is so incredible. I could never write fiction. Like, people's imaginations are so like just wild. And how do you engage a reader in this wildness and this fun and this, you know, creativity? And I felt like there is no way. I can only write from like what I've experienced, you know? And so, but this really fun adventure, food, family book came out of like, what's that word? Like trying to like balance the energy. And it like filled me up, and it just made me like, it was fun and it was exciting. And I just was having a great time writing it. So I have those two that I go back and forth between, that kind of like energize each other. So
yes, I love it so much. And I was just thinking about like these two projects that you're working on, right? Because I've read parts of each of them. And I think the memoir, and I've told you this before, right? Like the emotional transmission that you bring is like so strong, right? So it's like, it's more than just the words on the page. Like I can just feel like the emotion like behind it. And it's just like, it's like you're this clear channel for it. And then like this adventure story, it's so like light and bright and fun and delightful, right? and it's like so joyful to like see those two, like, I wouldn't say they're like necessarily extremes, because I think they're like, right, the delight comes out of that emotional transmission too. But yeah, like that balancing the energy, and it's like, it's just fun to like see how your writing is like playing with you, like in these different ways, like you're coming out to play with it almost. And like, yeah, it's been really fun to sort of see them both start coming to life.
Yeah. And it's like this, it's almost like your spirit knows what you need, right? Yeah. And it's like, I'm just going to help you out. I know you're kind of like tired from this other space of being in, so I'm going to help you out, and I'm going to like give you what you need, and to kind of fill you back up and get you back on your path. Yeah.
I love it so much. So, and like, I think this is part of it, but I would love to hear a little too about how your writing has shifted, like as a whole. So I know I hear you saying, right, like part of it is like tuning into source, and also like using the different energies to like fill yourself up. So what else has shifted for you since starting the mastermind?
What I think, so what I think about is like where I write. Like that really comes up for me. And I think that initially, like I like things like really well kept and, calm. And, but it's so crazy that I write my best in this like really loud coffee shop.
Oh, funny.
Down in like the funk zone, downtown Santa Barbara. And the music is like blaring louder than I would like for it to be. But it's so weird that when I am there, I get into the zone so like easily and smoothly. And I didn't realize how much my environment, I've always known my environment really affects my mood and it affects my like way of being, but I didn't realize how much it would affect my writing. And so the other day I tried going to this coffee shop that was much closer, and then it take, like I could literally walk there. And it was so calm and it was so quiet. I just sat there and I'm like, there is nothing. Like I have nothing. Like there's no inspiration. There's nothing. There's no, I can't even, like I have no vibe right now for this. And so I thought to myself, well, and so this has also changed too. I thought to myself, well, it's going to take me about 20 minutes to get where I need to be, parking and everything. That's only going to leave me about 30 to 45 minutes of writing time. And I thought, well, 30 to 45 minutes of writing time in that space is going to completely outweigh an hour here. So I'm just going to get my stuff and I'm going to do it. And so I did.
Nice.
And I, it didn't write as many words as I was hoping to get to that day, but they were definitely more valuable than what I would have written, I guess. Yeah. So seeing the shift between like, I need 3 hours to write in order to get into the zone, right? To like, I got 30 minutes, baby. Like, that's what I got. I'm going to use what I have and I'm going to do what I can with it. Right. Which is like my motto anyways, do what you can with what you have. But when it came to like project working or working on something like this, like writing, I always felt like, no, I need that 3-hour chunk because I can go for that long very easily. So I thought like, that's what I needed. So making that shift to like that bite size, like, no, this is what I have. I need to get myself where I need to be so that I can make it happen. And then also recognizing that like my environment is really important with when I write.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love, right, this piece about like honoring what you need, right? Like that you really were like, do I really want to like schlep on or like 20 minutes away and park the car? Like I only have half an hour, like, but just being like, no, like that's what I need. Like, that's what I need to do my best work. Like, I love that you not only know that, but also are like honoring yourself, right? I think that there are some places where other writers might like beat themselves up. Like you should be able to write anywhere. Like, right? Be really mean to yourself.
Yes. That should, right? Like we tell ourselves like, I should be able to,
Yeah.
Rather than like really looking at ourselves and going, no, like, how am I made? Like, how am I created? Like, what wants to come out, you know, in what space and in what time? But the whole shooting ourselves all day long, every day. And I thought that too. I thought like, okay, Ellena, you can sit here and push yourself and try to make this work. Or you can go to a place where you know for sure you're going to get something good.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. I love that so much, right? Like that, like listening to your practice and then like honoring it is beautiful.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's what it's about. So
yes.
I love it. Okay. I'm curious go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. And that's what you teach too, Brooke. So like that really comes, that's why I love this course so much, is because you teach that. You teach more than just what the semantics, I guess, would be. Like you teach it's almost like whole body, you know, like it's like whole body writing here. It's not just like one thing. It's like a complete picture, I guess. Like, you know, when we try to work on just our physical health, but we forget our mental health and we forget our spiritual health. So like when you're writing from all the places.
Yeah.
And so I love that that's what you teach. And I love that that's what you really like, you teach us how to get there and you give us the tools on how to do that. So
yes, I really love that so much. And I feel like I might start using that of like talking about, it's almost like holistic, your holistic writing, because right, like it's true. Like I've taken so many writing classes where the only thing we talked about was like what's called writing craft, right? So it's like, how do you write? Like how do you do a good setting and how do you do plot? And right, like, it's just like very technical and like those things are important, right? And we do work on them in the mastermind. And also, right, we talk about like what you said about like writing practice, like where do you work best? What time of day? Like what writing practice would actually fit in your life, right? Because I also get a lot of people being like, well, if I, like you said, if I can't write for 3 hours, it's not even worth sitting down. Right. It's like, well, if you don't have a life in which 3 hours is feasible, it's like, does that mean that you're just gonna like let your book like shrivel up inside you? No, you're gonna find like you're gonna figure out how to work in a 30-minute block, right? Which is what you said. Yeah, so I love that whole body writing.
Yeah, there's got to be a word that like, you know, captures that a little bit better.
Totally. So what are some of, like, I know we talked a little bit about like practice and like writing from source and, but what else are like, would you say are some like impactful things that you've learned that have either shifted, either in our one-on-one work together or in the lessons that I teach? Like, what are some of the things that you've come away with that you're like, oh, my writing is different now because of XYZ?
I think writing is different now because I own the title of writer. You know, like really owning that I'm a writer, I'm a storyteller, like that's who I am.
Yeah.
And so now when I sit down and, you know, like those thoughts start creeping in, like, what are you doing? Like who do you think you are? And it's like on your little shoulder and whispering in your ear. I feel like those remembering that, no, I am a writer. No, I am. What do you mean? Who do I think I am? Like, I'm a writer. That's why I'm writing. And so I think that owning that is key for me, and just believing that that's who I am. Like that is what, yeah, that's who I am. I'm a writer. That's a part of me. Yeah. And let me think. Gosh, there's been so many shifts.
Well, and I just, while you're ruminating, I want to say too, right? That's like a pillar of the mastermind, is like stepping into your writer identity, right? Like, and I think, and I would just wanted to say that piece because it wasn't like accidental, right? That you were like kind of, but I feel like from my end, it's sort of like what I see is that I know a lot of authors who have published books. Some of them are like best-selling books and they still don't really feel like legit, right? They still don't feel like they're authors. And so I started finding that like when I sort of reversed it and started working with people before their book is even done, right? They call themselves a writer. They call themselves an author. It's like you show up to the page differently, right? When you're inhabiting that identity, like what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it is so key. And it gives me so much joy to hear that you're like really stepping into that, right? Because it does also give you like an answer back to all those thoughts. And like we talk about, right? Like every writer has those thoughts and it's nothing has gone wrong, right? It's just like part of the process is like, what do you do when they show up? And I love that you're just like answering them back. Like, I'm a writer. That's who I am. That's beautiful.
That's what I'm doing. I was at that coffee shop and one of the guys, I think that owns it, he's like, what are you working on? You know, and it's like super loud. And I'm like, oh, I'm writing a book. And, you know, where I don't think I would have ever done that. He's like, here, I'm like, oh yeah, this is the space for me. Like this really is the space for me. Okay. So another shift, I think you just spoke on it. Oh my goodness, I just lost my thoughts. I'll come back to it because I can't remember what it was.
So what would you say to someone who is like thinking about joining, they want to write their book, they're not sure if this is the right space in which to do it? Like, what would you say to somebody in that space?
Well, I do think that something that you said that makes a lot of sense is when we booked a consultation together, like, you know, like, oh, this is where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so like leaning into that intuition again, like when you know, it's like when you put on your wedding dress and you're just like, this is it. Yep. You know, right?
Yeah.
And, so it's not whether or not this is like a class that is going to give you what you need, or, you know, is going to have the information that you need, because it does. It has, like, if that is a concern, will this really prepare me to write a book? Yes, absolutely. And beyond, like so much, like beyond. The free content that you give is so incredibly valuable. Like that alone could like boost someone to write their book, right? But if you're looking for a place where you're surrounded by other writers and you're surrounded by other people who are on this journey, and that's going to be valuable, then this is it, right? Like this class, and also feeling the encouragement come through, because I think that was like a shift, helpful in my shift too, is being able to have someone actually read my work and tell me like, this is where you're lacking, or this is where you're doing great. Add this or change this or whatever. Like that is so helpful, especially when we're the only ones that's reading our work and we're looking to our friends, or we're looking to our spouses or our family members. And to be honest, like that's like sometimes not the greatest place to go.
Yes. Because
they're just not, no one's going to be as enthusiastic about your work as you are. Like no one's going to love it. Like understand what you're trying to convey, you know, as much as you are. But when you're working with someone like you, Brooke, like, because you lead from your intuition so much, I feel like you're able to get in there so much more than just someone that's like a reader, right? Just a random reader. And I feel like it gives you the momentum, helps build the momentum to keep going. And, you know, the deadlines are super helpful, you know, like the deadlines are helpful. Like, oh my gosh, I need to like upload that by tonight, you know, so that she has time to read it before we meet. And, the feedback is incredible. So I feel like there's so much value in this course that, that if it's not possible now, then just like save up for when it is, you know, like make it happen, because it really is more than you expect to get out of a course.
Oh, thank you for that, my friend. That was a beautiful place to end. And I want to say too about like, because I asked the question of like, what would you say to someone who's thinking about like, is this the right thing? So for people that are watching this video, if you're still watching, like at this point in the video,
yes,
like you should just join, because if you're vibing with me and Ellena, this is basically like what we do. We talk about books and writing like all the time. And it's just sort of like, this is exactly the vibe of the mastermind. So if you're still here, that means that you're in sync with us, and you should just come. So book your consultation or get on the wait list on the page where you're watching this video. So thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.